So for me, I took to read this book mainly because she was a homeschool child, and we were just in the beginning of our homeschooling journey when I came across this book. So I was interested in knowing what was this girl's story.
Interested in taking part? Fill out the form. The link is in the description below.
Books we read. Books we read. La 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 la
Welcome to Between the Pages. Today we're joined by Sharmila Auntie. Not only is she a great person to talk to, but she also actively participates at Lend a Hand India. Sharmila Auntie manages the Karigar School of Applied Learning at Pune within this organization. Let's welcome Sharmila Auntie.
So, hello, Sharmila Auntie. Welcome to Between the Pages. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm honored to have you here as our guest. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, Aina. But before I talk about myself, thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's a wonderful program that you have undertaken, and kudos to you. Hi, everybody. This is Sharmila here, a mother to three unschooled children who are now kind of grown up. The oldest being 18 plus, the second one is 15, and the youngest is 9 years old. Apart from that, I've also made a comeback to the social development sector. I work for an NGO called Lend a Hand India, and I manage one of their centers called Karigar School of Applied Learning. Yeah.
So, that sounds interesting, and the Karigar part is pretty new to me. So, can you please tell us more about it?
Sure. So, Karigar is, in a way, an experience center. It's a model learning hub, which we do hope that is replicated, and many people take up to set up hubs like this. It is a skilling hub where we teach and give exposure, create interest among people for skills that are not so well accepted or not so well loved in our country. So we have carpentry, we have fabrication, we have electrical works, gardening and agriculture, we have food processing and baking, and we give exposure and experiences to municipal school children as well as children from private schools, and even people from different age groups are most welcome to come and visit our center and experience various activities.
That all sounds so impressive. So, what book are we going to talk about today?
Um, so I thought of many different books, and then the one that kept coming back to me was Educated by Tara Westover. We're going to talk about that.
Can you please give us a brief summary about it?
Sure. So, Educated is a memoir. It's a story of a girl who was born and brought up in Clifton, Idaho, in the US. And she was the youngest of six, I think seven siblings. She had five brothers, one older sister. She was homeschooled. Her parents um, were actually, her parents believed in they believed in living a life where they did not take their children to doctors. They were not part of any social security programs and so on, and they had a farmland, so they lived off the farm. And yeah, they homeschooled their children. In fact, they were loosely homeschooled. They were just left to themselves, and though they were expected to help out in the farm. And Tara, until she was almost 17, hadn't even seen a school. She had learned to read and write on her own. The only other education that she received was what her or learning, academic learning that she received were the books that her mother made her read. So it's the story of this little girl who later on at the age of 17 decided to get into mainstream learning. And so she prepared and self learned and gave exams, and then went to college, did her post graduation, and now is at Harvard University.
That's impressive. So, what were your initial thoughts when you were reading the book?
So for me, I took to read this book mainly because she was a homeschool child, and we were just in the beginning of our homeschooling journey when I came across this book. So I was interested in knowing what was this girl's story, what were her ups and downs, what were her feelings, how did she take to homeschooling, did she ever want to go to school. So I had all these questions in my mind, and when I took to read this book, and yeah, so it was quite interesting to see her story unfold. And what I saw was she was not always happy about being homeschooled. There were days when she felt that she would love to go to school and experience having friends and other children around of her age around her. So these were the initial thoughts that I started the book with. And as I read through it, there were many insights, there were many learnings, I think, which will unfold as you ask me questions.
All right. So, I'm interested in knowing how you came across this book.
Hmm. Um, I think I love reading, and I was surfing through Goodreads, and there was somebody who had put up a review on Educated, and it caught my attention, and I thought that I should just pick it up and start reading it.
Okay. Um, so, has reading this book influenced your perspective on family, education?
Oh yes, oh yes. So in fact, it was quite a overwhelming book because Tara didn't have a very uh, protected and safe life. Uh, she did face abuse of her brothers, and even her father seemed to be, very loving one day and very strict and very abusive on another day. So as the book unfolded, I was quite shocked because in my perspective, something like this would never happen in a homeschooled family. Those were my thoughts around it. So as this book unfolded, I felt very sad many a times. I also knew what I wouldn't do with my children. I knew that not that I wanted to give them a very protected life. I wanted to value their choices, their decisions, and stand by them in their journey with whatever they decided to do. So these were things that come to my mind right now when I talk about the book. Yeah.
Okay. How do you think Tara's experiences with the educational system reflect on the educational system going on right now?
So Tara took her learning in her own hands, right? So she decided that she wanted to enter the mainstream learning, and she wanted to go to university. The book does bring out accounts where uh, she felt that because she came with an uncluttered mind, where schooling had not damaged her ways of thinking, and her ways of thinking were unique. She always produced essays and assignments that were very different from her peers and other classmates. So that was one thing that came across to me that somewhere in our schooled world, in our so-called educational system, we try to create standardized uh, people, who think in the same way, write in the same way, express in the same way. There's no creativity in what they do. And Tara came across as a fresh person in this entire field of education, where she brought in her uniqueness. So all her, and this was lauded by the academicians. The academicians found her work to be interesting, unique, and which is why she constantly excelled. She also had problems making friends. She was more of a loner because she was used to being by herself in her homeschool journey. She never had peers and friends around her apart from her siblings.
That all sounds really interesting. So, Tara demonstrates resilience throughout her journey. Can you share a moment where resilience helped you overcome a challenge?
Uh, yeah, when I think about my own life journey, I think sometime when I was around 15, 14, 15, and I was preparing for my board exams. I wasn't a very bright child, academically. I barely scraped through all the years. And my mom wanted me to go for tuitions, and I would constantly be hearing things like, how are you going to pass? You're not going to pass if you don't go for tuitions. And I even heard her say, um, something to her friends that if my daughter passes, I'll be happy. And somewhere, that kind of that experience, or just listening to those words, made me really, I went through a phase where I felt very sad and I was like, what, my mom doesn't have a good opinion about me, and is this what she thinks about me? But somewhere I think I picked up the strands, and I said, no, I can decide things for myself, and if I want to do well, I can do well. I can study and I can do well. And once that confidence set in, I quit the tuitions because I didn't like them anyways. And I said that I'm going to do things myself. I'm going to study on my own. I'm going to manage everything on my own. I did go to a school. In those days, schools was a non-negotiable for us. I wish it wasn't, but so I think that is a moment of resilience that comes to my mind, where I took my life in my hands. I took an account of what I am good at, what my strengths are, and I started believing in myself. And from that point onwards, there has been no turning back. I've always had this confidence in whatever I do. I think it began there. If it hadn't, probably I would still be an introvert, a totally non confident person. So, yeah.
Okay, I see. Tara goes through a significant transformation throughout the book.
Mhm.
And how do you see her growth when you were reading the book? Like,
I feel she was a very strong person. She did have a moments where she was willing to give up and she didn't know the way forward, but she lived each day one at a time. And it was when she took that call that she wanted to get out of the house. She tried to run away a couple of times too. And when she said, she wanted to move out of the house and she wanted to carve her own path. I think that was the best moment for me, because it so resonated with the fact that I had taken that call for myself, and I saw her story and my story aligning at that point of time, though I had never faced any abuse kind of in my life, if apart from these couple of remarks that my mom had passed. Yeah.
I see. So we're heading towards the end of the shoot, and we have a ritual in this podcast where every guest writes a question for the next guest. So I
Okay.
have a question for you from Siddhi. She's asking what is something you didn't like about the book at all, and you really disagree with that particular thing.
What I didn't like about the book. There was nothing as such that I didn't like about the book. Uh, but when I read some reviews later, I got to know that the brothers and the family had accused her of not sharing correct information, and they had in fact made a remark that she had made up this entire story, and that is something that disturbed me. It still disturbs me because there's no way to know, right? It's a story of the family, and why would a girl lie? I mean, I don't see a point in that, so I'm quite disappointed with that aspect of the book. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining us today. I had a really great time talking books with you, and I'm really inspired to, try and read the book if it's like appropriate, and I'm really interested in this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Time to close the book, but don't worry, the stories really never end. Until our next adventure together, remember to keep your imaginations fueled, your laughter contagious, and your bookmarks handy. Until next time, it's me, Anna Lilani, closing the BDB book for this week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
la 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 la